Flash is the reason I make games. I don't know what my path in life would have been without Flash.
That's the voice of Tom Fulp, the creator of Newgrounds, lamenting the loss of Flash and what it meant to him personally. We are now more than a full year removed from the death of Flash. Support for browser-based games developed in Flash was entirely removed, and with that, many feared that decades worth of these classics would be lost to the ages. Tom Fulp, Newgrounds, and the team behind Ruffle, an in-browser Flash emulator, have been pioneering Flash preservation with their efforts to keep these games running and functioning exactly as you remember them where you grew up playing them. As highlighted by Tom in that opening, Flash is a tool that allowed so many people to express their creativity and was the gateway tool for hundreds of working developers. But what if Flash and that surrounding culture still existed as we remember it, allowing anyone to create and share bite-sized games with ease? Through a combination of mourning the loss of Flash, wanting to prove its viability and relevance, showcasing the bright future of Ruffle, and challenging developers old and new, the Flash Forward Jam was born. How's it going, everyone? My name's Graham. Welcome to Two Left Thumbs. This is Flashlight, the series where I look at all things Flash related. The Flash Forward Game Jam, started over on Newgrounds, requires developers to create games using old Flash engines and coding languages which are currently supported by Ruffle, so that a new generation of Flash games can be built to demonstrate that Flash isn't dead, it's simply dormant. Currently, Ruffle is able to easily support ActionScript 1 games and the vast majority of those made with ActionScript 2. ActionScript 3 is still in progress, and as soon as that hurdle is cleared, the entire back catalog of over 2 decades worth of games on sites like Newgrounds will once again be available to play in browser. And a lot of them are gonna now work on mobile devices for the very first time. I love how this Flash Forward Jam acts as both a celebration of Flash and a way to underscore what it's always done well, served as an easy tool to prototype and whip up strange new game ideas. In a way, this video almost acts as a follow-up to my previous Flash game preservation video, which came shortly before the official Flash player support came to an end, going in depth on what I saw as being the major routes through which Flash games would be preserved. The 3 main avenues I outlined were conversion, collection, and emulation. Conversion has been going strong for quite some time now. Flash movies are incredibly easy to convert, and there's ongoing experiments in converting Flash games that have been quite promising. Collections have become increasingly common since that time, with myself even serving as a publisher on both the Fancy Pants Adventures Classic Pack, compiling and updating those original platforming classics for the ultimate Fancy Pants experience, as well as Alice is Dead Hearts and Diamonds, which will be a complete remake of that point-and-click mystery noir series. I love these games as much as everyone else, and it's an honor to be playing a hands-on role in making sure those 2 series will live on, at a minimum through alternatives to Flash, even though that future of web-based Flash gaming is looking brighter by the day. Check out the description and comments for links to the Steam pages for those 2 games and give those a wishlist. It helps us out immensely. The third form of preservation was emulation. The main way that's been accomplished so far has been through Ruffle, with this game jam existing to put it to the test. 1 year ago was the first ever Flash Forward Jam, which brought all sorts of creators, including many prominent Newgrounds alumni, out of the woodwork to say a final goodbye to Flash. At the time, this was intended to be a one-off game jam. Instead, it sparked something really incredible. The Flash Forward Jam grew beyond saying goodbye, and instead reminded everyone that this tool and art form doesn't need to be lost to time. If the community continues to support and believe in it, then Flash can remain a perfect way for young new developers to experiment and express themselves, same as it has for past generations. Through the success of this first jam, we are now a short ways away from the second Flash Forward Jam, with submissions due on April 20th. So yes, that's coming up soon. You have just under 3 weeks. But if you've ever wanted to try your hand at making a Flash game, or would love an excuse to revisit it, go hop over to Newgrounds, get in the forums, look for some people to collaborate with, and put something together. There's cash prizes on the line, which is always great, but it's a fantastic creative exercise. This whole thing last year kicked off when Dungeonation, an avid Newgrounds user and creator, decided that he wasn't done with Flash just yet. Dungeonation put together some prize money and got the ball rolling. From there, numerous others sponsored this event to really entice users. So we have Flash creators sponsoring an event on what I consider to be the Flash gaming website dedicated to the history of Flash gaming and software, while encouraging newcomers to dip their toes in that old Flash culture. It's a truly beautiful idea, and an event filled with creativity that simultaneously and effectively honors Newgrounds and its creators. In the end, for that first annual jam, there were 51 submissions. Throughout this video, I've already been sharing footage from as many of them as I can. I want to also include snippets from blog posts and developer interviews I conducted. It's my hope that this video will remind you of some of your old favorite developers, encourage you to try new games, reminisce on the joys of Flash, potentially dust things off to prototype a game of your own, and most of all, remain optimistic about the future of web-based gaming. Let's move into some insight from the creators who took part in the Flash Forward Jam. It brought out numerous multi-decade-long Newgrounds users. This jam really became a way for creators to step up and say goodbye by contributing what would likely be many of their last ever Flash games. I'll share a few touching excerpts that came from blog posts and retrospectives some of those creators made after participating back in 2021. First, I wanted to take a look at what Dungeonation had to say. Someone who represents a newer generation of Newgrounds, yet is familiar enough with the site and has been involved enough in the online culture to recognize what was being lost with the death of Flash. I pitched the Flash Forward Jam to Tom after seeing the "Welp, Flash is dead for good, Newgrounds will probably die with it" posts on social media. And although they didn't last long, it still kinda got to me a little bit. How about a word from someone slightly newer to Newgrounds, and primarily an animator over developer? I remember when Butspo blew up in the early 2010s, so it's easy to forget he's been crushing it since 2006, with his incredibly bold, standout style. Dynomelt may be among his most well-known games, but with every submission he seems to try something new and further refine that distinct Butspo-only style. While I've used Flash to animate for so long, over 10 years, my experience making more interactive stuff on it is pretty limited, and usually done in Construct 3. He opted to make a choice-based adventure to keep the game a solo dev project with limited Flash knowledge. Flash was a super convenient tool for this kind of project. This was a fun way for me to get back into animating more freely, and it's been amazing to see the results of the Flash Forward Jam. Some great quality stuff that really makes you respect this unique piece of software and its legacy. So why not go and play more Flash games? How about from a creator who returned for the first time in years to send off Flash properly? D-Sun started on Newgrounds back in 2004, most well known for the Light People on Fire and Armed with Wings series, the latter of which actually was continued through a full Steam release. And here, D-Sun submitted a tangential installment in that series for the Flash Forward Jam, Ashbelt. In his own retrospective after making this game, Daniel shared, "Since the end date of Flash was announced years ago, I've intended to develop a final Flash game to celebrate the end of an era. But the pressure of making a new game can be daunting. I may not have made anything at all had it not been for the Flash Forward Jam, providing the opportunity and incentive to do so. Building a game for a jam with my fellow Newgroundsers, we're united. It feels meaningful." D-Sun also helped out his friend Scoober Steve with an insane project that I truly believe is most at home in the insanity of short and sweet Flash gaming. Throw Rocks at Shit Game of the Year edition. It's really hard to imagine that existing in a format other than Flash on a website other than Newgrounds. and a longtime alumni who reveled in the opportunity to dip back into the Flash pool. Mind Chamber started back in 2000, eventually working for Newgrounds as the lead artist behind the Picoverse. Widely recognized for incredible all-time best creations like Red Baron, Newgrounds Rumble, Madness Accelerant, and many more. There is this strange effect where you likely will never know when it's the last time you'll be somewhere, see someone, or do something. I'm sure many of these creators made games for years and naturally either moved on to things other than games or simply making them for other platforms. This was their opportunity to choose a specific endpoint rather than one emerging years earlier. There is something really empowering and kind of emotional about that. Now keep in mind that everyone participated because they felt they had something unique to share and wanted an excuse to create, but it was still a contest and there were technically winners, even though I'm sure everyone got a little something out of it. This was a great exercise for creators to dust off Flash and challenge themselves to channel that creative, anything-goes Flash energy without any guiding themes to dictate what they created. And the range of submissions did not disappoint. These submissions included a corrupted Pico school that was a tribute to all things Newgrounds, with a unique clay style, a Riddle School style tribute game, spot the differences, action platforming, 90s computer-inspired horror, a surrealist point-and-click, a text adventure, a cat burglar management-like game, and on and on. As we've all come to know from Flash, what this jam had to deliver was truly unpredictable. The collection of genres covered feels as deep and broad as the full catalog of historic Flash creations. There were a few categories through which users could win. First was for interactive movies. Third place went to Rob C3 for Delivery Defense, a Dragon's Lair-inspired animated action sequence with QuickTime events. Second place went to Spot and Click by Juicy Beast, a looping animated spot the difference game. It's difficult to spot the differences, but it has a Zen-like quality while it all scrolls past. And first went to Butsbo for Brain Toasting Dungeon, highlighting Butsbo's brilliant and standout animation style while giving the player strange and unexpected branches to explore. You can even unlock a dress-up game, which is a throwback to some of the first ever Flash games. In the full game category, 6th place went to Scoober Steve and D-Sun for Throw Rocks at Shit Game of the Year edition. How could they not acknowledge such brilliance? 5th was Cat Burglar and the Magic Museum by Starblinky. This was one of my personal favorites. It felt new and different to someone who has spent much of their life playing Flash games. There was an addictive quality to trying to push that time limit as much as possible, and so much satisfaction to getting away with a theft with only meters to spare. Plus, I liked the ways it incentivized you to push it and steal more before the museum's next security upgrade. It was just smart design all around, and it took home an additional prize for best use of mobile, which went to the game which ran best on mobile devices, and it even included scaling options to better fit any phone. That's something that would only come about recently in Ruffle, so I kind of think it's the only time I've ever seen that in a Flash game. 4th place again sees D-Sun, this time for Ash Belt. The animation is great and the incredibly smooth controls and movements are enhanced by Ruffle in a way that feels above Flash players' own limits. 3rd went to Bullet Heaven 3 Prototype from Matt Likes Swords. He had to lean on some reused backgrounds and music from other games in his series, but the end result is packed with content, is highly polished, and is a fun tease as to what comes next for that series. 2nd place went to I'm Outta Here by Carpet Bakery, someone relatively new to the scene, and came as a big surprise with his tribute to Riddle School. It does an incredible job of capturing John's art style and that Riddle School feel while still coming out feeling distinctly new and original. And the 1st place prize went to Arcane Maiden from Midnight Marin. While some of the UI could benefit from some polish, there is a lot to this game. You wait to fill your mana and time attacks to maximize those skills against new enemies. The ambition of this project is surprising. It's a satisfying gameplay loop with great animations, music, and feelings of progression. I think Tom Fulp said it best in his review. Midnight Marin gave us a new classic Flash RPG, the sort that would have been a huge deal in the golden age of Flash games. And finally, they actually created a new category, Best Celebration of Flash and Ruffle, for Guy Unger's Pico School. Again, from Tom's own commentary, it was one of the most impressive entries in many ways, filled with nostalgia while being modern and visually exhilarating, making it the ultimate celebration of Flash and Ruffle. The quality and variety of games was such that we had 5 honorable mentions. Games that were interesting and surprising enough that the judges felt the need to provide some additional commentary towards them, all standing out for different reasons, whether it be impressive art, frame-by-frame animation, unique mechanics, creative storytelling, and overall imaginative presentation and gameplay, plus 3 additional special mentions of games that were not eligible to win any prizes because they either came from the creator of this game jam themselves or from staff members of Newgrounds. 51 games, and nearly every one of them deserves at least some level of acknowledgement. That's always been the beauty of browser gaming, and I think this jam really achieved what it set out to by showing how viable and alive that medium is. I love hearing these creators share their personal stories relative to the Flash gaming world. A lot of it gets very sentimental. There's not many people who existed in this space who will talk about it now without looking back on everything incredibly fondly. After this game jam took place, I reached out to several of the creators in search of more personal takes about this experience and Flash at large. So in this section, I wanted to compile responses to a short series of questions I asked of numerous participants from within this jam. The questionnaire was simple, and it gets a little corny, but I think it's a testament to how significant this tool has been for so many people, and showcases how it can remain just as important today. I'll use each person's Newgrounds icon on screen to represent where the comment is coming from as I read it out. I spoke with Bombtunes, Cyberdevil, Guy Unger, Butspo, Matt Likes Swords, Star Blinky, Tom Fulp, and Johnny Utah. Through this, we have a range of creators from the literal creator of Newgrounds and some of those who have been there since the very beginning, as well as others who have been making web games for as many as 10 years or as few as 5. I didn't set out to do so, but I like having that range of perspectives looking back on this, and I hope it shows that it's never too late to give Newgrounds and Flash gaming a chance. First, I asked, what motivated you to take part in the Flash Forward Jam? I just think it's a cheeky idea for a game jam. In the year where Flash is supposed to die, we're making a bunch of games in Flash specifically to be emulated. I consider it a big middle finger to Steve Jobs that there's a Flash flood rather than an ignominious death. I also love the Flash software and wanted to pay tribute to how much it's changed my life by giving me an easy outlet for bringing my ideas into reality for everyone to enjoy. Flash games have been a huge inspiration for my games, so I didn't want to pass this chance to make a tribute to it. I'd been hoping Flash would see a bit of a resurgence as time neared its supposed demise, and was thinking I'd eventually start dabbling with it again just to remind people it existed. Flash feels like not only such a big part of my past and what I grew up with, but also still such a fun and efficient format to play around with. The jam felt like the perfect opportunity to get back to it, and I'm super happy there are so many others that seem to share this love for it. I'm usually looking for jams when I have the time for the creative challenge, and I got excited with this one mostly because Flash is what I started with for digital animation, so it had a big nostalgic appeal. I took part in the jam to test what Ruffle can do and to motivate more people to check out the tech, especially old Flash devs who haven't used Flash in a while. I also miss how easy it was to publish Flash content across all the different platforms, and I hope Ruffle continues to make that easy. I honestly just needed an excuse to make a Flash game again. I really hope there are more Flash jams.
Because I was excited to show off Ruffle basically and make something new to show the potential that Ruffle had for new Flash games to exist. And I had never made a mobile game, so none of my Flash games ever were made with mobile in mind, and I thought it would be fun to make a Flash game that you could run both on desktop and mobile, which was something that just wasn't possible before Ruffle.
Tom threatened me. Special shout out to Jeff for giving some trademark cheeky responses, saving me the effort of having to write any real punchlines of my own to spice up this video. What did you get out of your participation? Whether that be creatively, personally, or any other way you want to interpret that question. I got to try something experimental with my entry and learn the ins and outs of what's possible in Ruffle. It turns out Ruffle can do a lot of stuff I didn't expect it to be able to, like interacting with an external server for sending and receiving game data. Personally, spending an unexpectedly short time on my submission after a couple of unexpectedly busy months, I gained a reaffirmation that I can do things like this, to spontaneously make something out of nothing, and even with my very limited coding skills, manage slightly more complex concepts than I maybe think I can as long as I do things differently. And most of all, I was reminded how fun Flash really is. How both simple and flexible it is. As one who never planned to abandon the form, it felt like a proper reintroduction too. This was a pretty entertaining creative outlet. While Flash is far from perfect on a technical side, it offers a lot of freedom in the way you implement things. It was fun to make an animated project from scratch and trying to come up with unexpected choices and animation gags for the players to find. The jam helped me get in touch with developers I haven't spoken to in a while, and also the Ruffle team. And while I wouldn't use Ruffle for a serious project until it is more mature, I've now got another tool that I will consider using in the future. With the ultra-fast development time, I didn't have time to sit and perfect each thing I put in the game. I would have to implement something and then either scrap it or move on. There were so many times I wasn't happy with something, but just let it breathe for like a week, and then I ended up really liking it. I'll have to do this more in the future.
I got a lot out of making it because it was fun to go back to just making a web game without the expectations of a big commercial release. I've actually been working on a big game called Nightmare Cops since 2012, so it was nice to take a little break, have a diversion to make something small again.
I got to draw vehicles, which I enjoy. Has this jam and Ruffle motivated you to make browser-based games in Flash again beyond this jam? I will definitely use Ruffle again for web games whenever I'm feeling that itch to rapidly prototype an idea and get it out there for immediate audience reaction. It's so good, in fact, that I'm going to be using Ruffle for one of my IRL projects as the rendering engine behind the axe-throwing augmented reality game system I'm building. Most definitely. I have a few leftover ideas from this one for starters, not the least of which is the dress-up game with a twist I was initially planning to make for it. With Ruffle and the prospect of Flash actually living on forever, unshackled and free from plugin dependencies as it then would be, it seems there's no longer as big a need to adopt newer technologies if you don't want to. The journey's just taking a new direction, and it's exciting to see how differently both old and new submissions will play in the future. What new features and fancies this emulation might grow to offer. While I'm recently more inclined to other platforms for web games, such as Construct 3, this jam proves how smoothly Ruffle can run. For the simple interactive story I made, Flash remains a great tool. I would consider revisiting it for other projects of this kind for the web. My focus will likely continue to be desktop mobile games. I doubt browser games will ever become as popular as they used to be now that everyone has a phone to play games on. I will likely use browser gaming for getting feedback on demos, betas of my games. I think so. If I ever need to quickly prototype a new idea, I'll for sure be using Flash.
I do hope I'll get to make more Flash games in the future. It's nice knowing that with Ruffle that it's possible, that I could just have a crazy idea and crank something out and put it right up on the web.
Hell no. Is there anything you specifically miss from the glory days of Flash? Mostly just how it was possible to make something really good in a short time period and immediately have it out there for thousands of people to play. You've got to kind of catch lightning in a bottle with Flash and go from idea to completion while the creative juices were still flowing and the excitement was still hot. Nowadays, it's a major mental and time investment to make a game, and you're not really guaranteed to have it be played so widely and get so much appreciation/feedback. Oh, I also miss the sponsorship and ad money that was so generously spread around back in the golden age of Flash development. I miss the perceived simplicity of it all, how everyone could pick up the program and experiment their way to mastery, or to never master it completely, yet find their own particular methods of using it that worked for them. Everybody did things differently. To some extent, of course, artists still do and always will, but it seems there's both an effort and an interest in standardizing now, in making everything easier and better in ways that apply to all, and I feel like that might occasionally get in the way of that old air of originality and exploration. Maybe I'm just talking out of my ass, but it feels we had a different kind of creative reign back with Flash. Everyone walked an inspiringly individual and original path. Mostly the freedom of adding interactivity, especially on animations. You could add a lot of extra content. There was the classic collab format, where you choose which part to watch, or you could add deleted scenes, an image gallery, or Easter eggs, even games hidden within animations. Also, considering the titles and menu aesthetic, there was so much you could add to have a fun presentation. Flash is cool because it's super flexible and easy to use, and I don't have the motivation to learn any new game engines, so I would like to see it hang around for a bit longer. I miss the wild creativity. It really was the breeding ground for the wackiest, strangest, and some of the most truly creative ideas in gaming. People were literally creating entirely new genres every week.
I think the thing I miss the most about the glory days of Flash was just how many artists and programmers were all in the scene together. So there was just a lot of creativity going on and everyone used the same tools. Nowadays, everyone's using different tools. It's that they don't sync up the same way. And I miss that aspect of it, the way it all gelled. Like, for example, Speedo did the art for BB Topper in Drop Cannon, and he did all that in Flash. And then more recently, Speedo's been learning Clip Studio Paint. So what if in the future, he doesn't have Flash and he can't create art as easily for a Flash game? That's the sort of thing I'm gonna miss.
Like many would say, it was a fun and collaborative atmosphere that I'm not sure has been replicated anywhere else. What do you think it will take to bring browser gaming back to prominence? I'm not sure it's really possible with the new era of mobile devices. If mobile browsers could provide a more immersive, full app experience natively, like with full screen, and deliver near desktop performance, and allow for offline play, there might be a big surge of underground or indie free games that people would play on their mobile devices. Nick also explained in greater detail that he thinks a gap needs to be bridged between playing games natively within apps and playing a game within browser on your phone, as those two experiences never quite match up. I don't think browser gaming will get back to prominence as it was before. It was so popular because it was the most accessible form of killing time, and smartphones took over that space. But I also don't think it's that bad today. For example, even though my older games got many more views, people are leaving way more comments now. It's a smaller, but super positive, engaging, and supportive audience, and it makes releasing web games just as exciting as when I started. I don't think it'll ever truly disappear. It still seems alive and well. Maybe we're currently at a low point in regard to monetary incentives and studios can't exist the same way they used to, but it seems to me like new browser-based games are still rolling out constantly. I don't think we need any new technological breakthroughs to get back on prominence road, maybe more so the other way around, that we need to get back to basics and start placing less expectation on what we perceive as fun. To start enjoying content for the creative premise more so than the visual. If we tire of all the too mainstream games, maybe the focus will somewhat fall back on the underdogs, and anyone can become one. Plus, jams like this and machines like Ruffle do both make this all potentially both more profitable and more easily accessible for all. Maybe this is how. Maybe for that to happen, it would take either a big wave of impactful web games and/or some kind of massive social media platform which could integrate them in a fluent way along with mobile support, but that's just speculating. That said, the greatest advantage of the web or browser game is that it has a low barrier of entry. On a platform like Newgrounds or itch.io, it's quite accessible to upload a game and update it as much as you want. Web games are also a convenient format for game jams. So while it's hard to say these will get back to be as relevant, I think they may stick around on the internet as we know it. It's a shame that mobile gaming is dominated by two horrible monopolies, but it is what it is. And for most users, the app stores are a much more convenient way of playing casual games, in my opinion. I hope the law will change to open up these platforms more. It's a tough question with a lot of different ifs. I think there just needs to be more of an incentive for developers. I would definitely want to see more game jams like this one.
For browser gaming to come back to prominence, I feel like the quickest thing would be is if a lot of people started playing browser games. So, we've had a lot of success this year with Friday Night Funkin' on Newgrounds, which is really the most popular game in the history of the site. And that shows the potential that you can have a hit browser game, and we're hoping that it's getting more people to enjoy browser games again, which I think will lead to more people wanting to make browser games, and hopefully there'll be more opportunities in that space as the audience grows.
Money? Profits? And this is going to get a little sappy, but what has Flash meant to you? It's meant I could take my ideas, actualize them, and share them with the world. That's one of the most fulfilling things a person can do with their time, in my opinion. It's also been a catalyst to interact with other creative people and find lots of synergy and good times together with them. I actually just made a 75-minute long video about a Bobo's Big Adventure, a massive project that Nick was a part of. If you want to get really in-depth on what that sort of collaboration can look like, that video is going to be an excellent place to start. A lot. It played a huge role in my life since childhood till now. My father used it for his work, so when I was about 5 years old, we started making small Flash games together, and I haven't stopped since. Some of my best memories are just working on random Flash projects. I think it's still the best IDE in terms of balancing accessibility and expandability. People of all skill levels can make super creative and interesting things with it. Without Flash, I'm not sure I'd have ever tried my hand at making my own games, or found this site, or become as interested in web design, which I currently make a living with. All my early sites had Flash interfaces or splash pages or little bits of animation or interactivity. I feel like the quirks of the program almost amplified that sense of creative freedom and potential, that you could do anything with it both as a creator and as a consumer. You experimented and found a way with loopholes and workarounds, both in making and partaking. Maybe I'm a hopeless nostalgic, but I like to think that Flash is also just that timeless. That as standards and compatibilities change and the internet overall moves through each individual phase of development, Flash will be what it always has been. A tool for individual expression and experience the like of which it's hard to emulate. A format for all, built for everything. Maybe the true epitome of multimedia. As a player, it meant hours upon hours of free, varied, and seemingly endless entertainment in my early years of internet exploration. And once I learned more about the software used to make them, it was inspiring to try it out to make my own things. It's amazing to see how influential it has been, pushing a lot of aspiring creators into animation and game development. The Newgrounds community is still a really cool place for creators to meet, so I hope more of them keep joining, even if the site feels a little bit outdated for consumers of content. I grew up on Flash. It was a big part of my childhood, and later on in life helped me make a living and buy my first car. I think without Flash, there would be a huge chunk of my life missing. Things definitely wouldn't be the same.
Flash is the reason I make games. I don't know what my path in life would have been without Flash. I have a feeling I would have ended up doing web development for a living, and I might never have made the transition into making video games.
I'm real conflicted. I owe a lot to it, and it's also caused endless pain, too. I'm just not that attached to the world of browser games anymore. At this point in my life, I just want to be more successful, whatever avenue that is. Asking these creators about their experiences, I genuinely thought everyone would cheer and shout their endless praises for Flash after taking part in this game jam. And while the general tone of these conversations and attitudes of these creators were overall very positive, I find it really intriguing and insightful to see many prominent creators agree that maybe Flash's time is past, despite all the amazing things it gave us. So maybe a reanimated, pun intended, corpse of Flash won't be the future of online gaming. But we certainly can't undervalue how important it is to make sure that those titles remain accessible for as long as possible. With a tool that was so important to so many creators, it's interesting to look at what made Flash games and that surrounding culture so significant. The ways that shared experience shaped artists, programmers, musicians, designers, storytellers, creative people of all kinds, as well as the users they touched through those experiences. Projects like Ruffle are invaluable in how they are preserving this legacy and ensuring the torch isn't snuffed out. Flash is imperfect, it always has been, but it was instrumental in kicking off many careers, conjuring up new genres, allowing creative people to brain dump whatever wacky idea they had, allowing for an incomprehensible number of players to give feedback, always favoring originality and rewarding games for quality above all else, highly encouraging collaboration and providing us with infinite hours of fun, not to mention incredible communities like that of Newgrounds that built up around it and continue to pay tribute to it every single day, including everything that came before through events like this Flash Forward Jam, while also ushering in the next era of online gaming and beyond. It feels appropriate to share one last comment taken from Dungeon Nation's retrospective news post on this game jam over on Newgrounds. Years ago, I had felt like I had missed out on the web game heyday online, making cool stuff and making a name for yourself online creatively. I learned Flash a little bit when I was younger, but by the time I felt I could put out polished stuff, it was too late, before Ruffle. Flash was dying. But all this made me realize that infinite well of creativity online doesn't matter your tool as long as you're comfortable using it to create. That well is still out there, alive and very much, well. The deadline for the second ever Flash Forward Jam is April 20th. There are over $3,000 in cash prizes. That gives you just under 3 weeks, but if you're willing to embrace the typically short turnaround in development time, creating by the seat of your pants, that Flash development was always best at, then that's plenty of time. If you start working now, you could participate in this jam, and I highly encourage that. I could wax poetic about web and Flash games for hours. Nothing had a stronger influence on my gaming preferences and artistic stylings, as well as large parts of my humor and personality than Newgrounds and Flash culture. If you want to continue that ride with me, please check out my full Flashlight series, where I continue to do deep dives, reviews, retrospectives, interviews, and full documentaries on all things Flash related, shared in a way that is incredibly personal to me, and is the series I'm probably still most proud of on this channel, because I think it's something that potentially only I could do the way that I do it. There's quite a few videos in the series at this point, and I have 1,000 more ideas of what will come next. If you want to simultaneously keep that Flash game spirit alive and support some new creations from some classic Flash creators, please go wishlist Fancy Pants and Alice is Dead. The more Steam sees players are interested, the more they help promote them, and we can help these series find new life. Again, I'll have links to those down below. It's not too late to put together your own game for the Flash Forward Jam 2022. I'll also have links to that down below. Be sure to check that out and play all the new games people are going to be sharing and maybe create one of your own. Who knows? It could be the next Friday Night Funkin'. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.